What's up, guys? It's cold outside today, and I'm going to be replacing this freeze plug, or J plug, they call it. I developed a coolant leak, and I could see it was dripping from behind the oil pan, and I followed it up, and it went up the oil pan, and okay, so there it is. You see the bolt on the left? There's two bolts. There's a silverish bolt, and below it is a more rusty looking bolt. The silverish bolt, that's the J plug. You can see it curving down the plastic, and it's hard to see in the camera, but the engine block goes sideways right down there, and that reddish stuff down there, that's coolant pooling up from where it's leaking out of the J plug. And it's too bad it's not in focus, but if you look down in between your manifold here, you take off your engine cover, and then there's these four intake runners. If you look right down in between, there it is, there's the J plug, and you can see a reddish pool of coolant right there sitting on the block. So I disassembled the engine, and the J plug was broken, and I put some gasket maker on it just to seal it, so it wasn't leaking for now. It still leaked a tiny bit, but not nearly as much. And I just got the new one in for ECS tuning. It was $10. They have an aluminum one for $30. That would be pretty baller, but the first one lasted 165,000 miles, so I think that second one will last for the life of the rest of the car. So the first thing we're going to do is, you see this lobe right there. You can put a wrench on there, something like a 3/4, and you turn that and it takes the tension off this belt. Then you slip that belt off the alternator. You undo this coolant hose here, take off this charge pipe and then you take off this throttle body. Then there's 4 bolts holding the alternator on. 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. Move that out of the way. Tip the coolant tank out of the way, and then you will have access down to the thermostat J hook area. That's an 18 millimeter. There goes the accessory belt. I know I've got these 2 random gloves on. It's just because they're the only ones I could find laying around. Okay, try not to pour coolant all over the alternator again like I did last time. Nice, nothing. So let's get that. Yeah, this isn't the original fastener. I just found this bolt. I think it normally uses a Phillips head. This one doesn't even fit really, you just pull it out. Holds it good enough, it's fine. So, there. That. Get that right out of the way. Careful about the sensor on the bottom. Go ahead and undo the throttle body charge pipe clamp, which I forgot to tighten when I put it back together the other day, and then car wasn't happy. I gave it full throttle. So that's off. Take this off so we don't lose it somewhere. This is a T30 Star, just because I don't have any Allen bits, and this works fine as long as it's not too tight. So these are Allen bolts on the throttle body. There's 4 of them. One of them's a little bit harder to reach, so I'm going to get this extension on. Can't really see much, can you? Last bolt holding the throttle body on. Right here. So my gasket on this thing, oh, it's actually not as bad as that. Alright, so. And there's a plug to unplug, an electric plug. There we go. There. So there's the throttle body. See the blade in there. So set her up here for now. And let's see if you can see what's happening over here. That's a little bit better. Okay. So throttle body's off. Coolant hose disconnected. Now we have access to the alternator. I broke one of the bolts the first time I replaced the thermostat when I got the car 2 years ago. So it's got one standard style bolt, hex head bolt, and the rest are factory Allen. And I'm using a T40 Star on these Allen head bolts, because I don't have any Allen attachments for my ratchets yet. I should probably order some cheap Chinese ones just to have them. They are pretty handy. Because I have Allen wrenches, but I'm not going to sit here and turn these with an Allen wrench. It'll take forever. For the bottom left bolt, you kind of have to bend a rubber hose out of the way a little bit. Go. All cracked loose, none of them seized, none of them broke, so that's always a nice thing. None of them stripped. Alright, there's the last one. So now, okay. Also this alternator can go in, this alternator can go in upside down, and it's not, so this part with the V shape in it, that faces down towards the engine. I gotta remember that. I always try to put it on backwards. So now you kind of have to, it's a really tight fit. Okay, there's a plug on the back. And you gotta not confuse it with the throttle body plug. So throttle body plug is, see, it's a 6-pin. It's got some purple wires. The alternator one is just 2 wires and they're blue. So I broke this plug the last time I took it off, so now it should just come right off. Oh, they still stay on so good even when they're broken. These plugs. There. It's a pretty beefy alternator. Okay, so the blue wire is unplugged. I'm gonna not. This is really ridiculous. How much trouble I'm having getting this to tight fit. I'm not gonna take off this ground wire because you don't have to if you just. Not easy. Okay, there. All right. Whew. Man, I tell you, this thing's like 25 pounds. All right, I didn't. Wow. Struggle is real. Okay. Now. Okay. Now with the alternator taken off and the throttle body gone, we can actually get a view of what's going on down here. So that's the thermostat right there. That black pipe is going into the thermostat and there's a coolant tube on top of it. J-hook is right behind Man, this is disorienting looking through the camera. Just on video. That's the thermostat. Okay. And the J plug is right behind it, but you can't see it. So you have to take that coolant line off the top of the thermostat and then unbolt that pipe off the side of the thermostat. And then there's one more bolt holding that pipe on. And that one is tricky to reach. It's down. Is that it? Let me find it. Oh no, it's right there. That bolt. See that bolt right there? That's also holding that black pipe on the thermostat. So you have to unbolt that. And then that black pipe will pull off the thermostat, and the thermostat will pop off the engine block, and then you'll see the J hook right behind it. This bolt is tough. It's really far down. So I actually could reach it with my left hand, putting my arm up through there, but sometimes it's just you need a long extension, and if you drop that bolt, it's hard to get it started, and it's just far away and hard to reach. So yeah, that's what we're going to do next. Take this alternator very carefully, balance it over here. That's not bad. Alright, so now we've got this room to get in here. Alright, I'll use the extendo. Deep socket 10. Apparently I lost my other ones. Fit the drip pin under my car. This is lowered. It's hitting like the engine block. Alright, that's enough. Pan down there now for the coolant. Shouldn't be too hard from here. It's just going to be a hose or two, and the hard part is over for pretty much, except for this one. Okay, so there's one of the bolts for that pipe. That was the thermostat. Now the other one, I'm going to need both of my extensions. And my swivel. So I'm going to do a double. I got a double extend. I got like a 6-inch and a, I don't know, 3-inch extension swivel on the end. Just gonna use swivel. How does this work even? How does this even work? Wrenches, how do they work? Alright, so that goes on there. And then 10 millimeter. Okay, so we got this now. We're going to reach way down. Try to get my hand down there so the bolt doesn't fall into oblivion. There, okay, got it. I didn't think I could actually reach this bolt, with my hand the first time I did the thermostat, and I didn't even try. But you can reach it if you contour it just the right way. Okay. Got it. So there's a 1/2-inch bolt. Just holding that tube on, 1/2-inch head in there. And now that tube will pull sideways off the thermostat and coolant will come out. In. Okay. Now we got the there's a hose clamp, clamping the hose on top of the thermostat. Okay. So we get the hose off. Okay. So now all we have is 2 Allen head bolts, hi Gusto, holding the thermostat on. And once those are out, then I'll show you what it looks like to pull off the thermostat. Then you can see the J plug behind it. It's leaking. So, all right, I'm going to use my T30 Torx again. I don't know what size Allen head that corresponds to. If somebody does, leave it in the comments below. Side too, the Allen inside head, and also the 10mm fits it as well. Which is actually a lot better. I'd much rather have a normal bolt than an Allen bolt. I think the Allens strip out a lot easier. Alright, so that's loose. Both the thermostat bolts are loose. You don't even have to take the bottom tube off the thermostat. Just need to bend it out of the way with the thermostat still attached. There's one. Here, so I remember those ones. That's one for the thermostat. There's the other. All right. Now, all right. So here we go. Okay, so here's the view from the top, and then there is the thermostat. Just gonna pull on it. Yeah, it comes right off. Okay, and behind it is the J plug right there. You see that curved piece of plastic? So that's the J plug right there. It's that silverish bolt, and it curves down, and it plugs. You can see the hole on the inside there of where the thermostat goes in. That's the hole that the J plug plugs up. So I'm just going to take out that bolt and then undo that J plug. You can see the coolant pool there that I was talking about. The engine block is horizontal there for some reason. So that's where I was able to, without taking apart the engine at all, I was able to look down between the runners, see that pool there, and then I knew it was probably this J plug, because when I bought the car I did the thermostat and I didn't replace the J plug at the time, and I read online that when you replace a thermostat you should replace the J plug, and I didn't. Now here I am 2 years later and it started leaking, so I should have done it while I was there in the first place, but I didn't have the part, which is why I didn't do it. So anyway, I'm going to undo that bolt, and then I'll show got the bolt out. It was another 1/2 inch. Over here is my pile of bolts. So you can push it out from inside this hole right here, or you can push from the back of it over here. It's actually sealed pretty good in because I put it in, I can't quite reach, silicone sealer. There it goes. There it is. The J plug. Okay. That's the problem there. The end of it is broken off. Okay. So, here's our new part and our old part. You can see this has an O-ring, and the O-ring sits in a recess, and that recess was a weak point, and so this one snapped off somehow, got brittle over the years from the engine heat, and you can see the goop around the edge because I just sealed it up with some gasket maker so I could not pour coolant all over the road while I waited for the new one. And so yeah, now we gotta, I'm just gonna probably wipe out that hole with a rag to get any of the schmoo and any of the gasket maker residue. I'm gonna plug this in and I'll see you then. Oh, I can feel, oh, this was in there where the J plug goes. That's the old gasket from the one that broke off before. I guess so. So yeah, that was still stuck in that hole, so it's a good thing I reached in there, or else it would have gotten chewed up by the water pump and pumped around through the system. Maybe, so. Feels pretty clean now. And now, put in the brand new J plug, which I was doing some research. It's actually a freeze plug, like you see if you ever see V8 engine builds on TV, people taking them apart and stuff. They've got these big rubber plugs, plugging holes in them, called freeze plugs. And what a freeze plug is it's a remnant from casting the engine. So after the engine's done, you know what? It's kind of a tight fit. I'm gonna get some. Okay, I got it. I just had to. I just got a little motor oil and just rubbed a very thin coat of motor oil around the ring because it was really, really difficult to get. You could probably use antifreeze too. Yeah, now she's in, so hard part's done. We're gonna start putting her back together. Hi, Gusto. Dog's out here helping me, of course. So here's the 1/2 inch bolt that holds on the J hook. Looks like I might have to use a swivel. Alright, let's get that started. My dog wants to go inside. Alright, so make sure this is definitely fully seated. And snug it up. Put my wrench on forwards because it's time to put things together instead of taking them apart. Doesn't have to be that tight, really. Just snug, like that. Okay, a new plug is in, so now the thermostat can go back on. $10mm thermostat bolts. Oh, there she goes. Right into the coolant. The lower bolt is in. Let my dog in here. Gusto. Can I come in, Gusto? Can I come in? Alright, these animals. Upper bolt. And Nice and snug. You don't want them to be too tight. Alright, thermostat bolts are nice and tight. Now, let's see here. Okay, the smaller bolt goes in the side of the thermostat and holds this pipe, metal pipe on. And then we have to do the really tricky down one that holds this metal pipe on. Let's see here. That's a 10 millimeter. That holds the metal pipe to the side of the thermostat. Okay. And now put together our long extension chain. Actually, I'm going to start this bolt by hand because you can't even see. Hold on. Okay. There. I'm going to start this long. This is the tricky one. It's way down in there. This one's a 1/2 inch. Oops, almost dropped it. Put a little pressure on the pipe so that it lines up better. I think I got it started now. Sometimes it can be deceiving. Alright, I'm gonna get my arm out of here. Okay, now the old 1/2 inch back on. Let's see, put this down in there. Very good. That other light bulb broke, so now this LED one is so bright on the middle that it washes out the whole image, unfortunately. Nice and snug. So that pipe is bolted back on. Now we can put this hose back onto the thermostat, top of the thermostat. Okay. These are pliers to get the clamp back on it. Slid back down. Tight space working down in this engine bay. Down where this thing is. I like to put the clamps back on the marks that they had before. They left an indent. How's that? Yeah, a little bit lower than that. The back of it didn't come down as much. There we go. Okay. Actually, that's a little lower. Just a tiny bit. Okay. Now it's right in its place. Right. Just got that hose on the thermostat, got the side pipe on the thermostat. The new J-hook is in. I think that's pretty much it for the thermostat area. Can go ahead and put the alternator back, I suppose, now. With the V-notch, with this V-notch pointing towards the engine, because it will fit both ways. It just won't bolt up completely the other way. It'll be like, oh, I'm putting it on, and it seems like it's going on, and then it doesn't quite tighten down all the way, and you're like, oh, it's backwards. Try not to bash too many wires and hoses as you move this thing around. Plug in our blue plug. It's stuck. Come on. It's so close. There. There. Okay. The plug back on. Okay, get her all lined up. And get some anti-seize. You always want to stir up your anti-seize because all the oil floats to the top and the really thick, heavy stuff sticks to the bottom. So stick your brush all the way down and mix it around, or else by the time you use up all the stuff on the top, then all you'll have is this heavy crap at the bottom, and it's not very useful. It'll dry out. So, all right, got our anti-seize. Let's see, make sure we're not forgetting anything. We've got our alternator bolts, we have our throttle body bolts, and our coolant tank bolt. That's it. So we're doing good. I'm just going to dip the ends of these in the anti-seize as I put them on. So there's the first one started. Alright. Second one is started. I think. Sometimes it's deceiving. Alright. Bolt number 3. Excellent. And bolt number 4. It's getting windy out. I wish our garage doors were not broken. Alright. Got the fourth one started. This is the one that was rough all the way out, I think. Seems to be rough going into. It's going okay. If I hold the alternator up, then it's not hard to turn in by hand. Sorry about this lighting in this camera. Hopefully I can get some better equipment someday. Alright. Got a 1/2 inch here on the one that I broke and replaced. Don't want to tighten it all the way until the other ones are snug. For the other ones we were using a too small. There, this is the one. What is this? A T40. Bottom one, you have to push the hose out of the way. It's kind of annoying. But there we go. Just use my swivel. Socket. All right, that one's snug. That one's snug. That one's snug. Doesn't need to be super tight. As it tightens over time, you tighten it so much, and then by the time you go to take it off a year later, it's a lot harder to undo than the amount of effort that you put in to tighten it. So it doesn't have to be super tight. Plus the belt is holding it. Plus these bolts are so long, they have so many threads that there's not a lot of risk of them backing out from not being super tight. And there's nothing pulling them out either. There's belts pulling the alternator in, so I don't need to be super tight. We'll just a firm tightness, not super tight. Or else the next time you go to take it off, it'll be crack. That's what happened when I loosened these earlier, they cracked. Alright, so the alternator bolts are on. We could do the belt now, I suppose. Or the throttle body next, doesn't really matter. Grab this 18mm again. Belt tensioner. Put the belt back on. Okey-doke. Grab our throttle body. The part with the plastic goes on the left because it can go on more than one way. We got to remember to plug in our wires first. Oh, that's the wrong way. There we go. This gasket should be replaced someday. Alright, can I get some anti-seize on these bad boys? Lined up. Here's the hole. Found it. Alright. Anti-seize. That one's annoying because the pipe is there. I took this apart the other day and siliconed the bad plug back in because I didn't have a replacement yet and I needed to keep driving. I forgot to tighten this boost hose, intake hose, and it blew off. And I thought my car was going into limp mode. I thought something bad happened. And fortunately, it was just this. I completely did not tighten. Completely forgot to tighten the hose clamp at all. This hose clamp that holds the this intake pipe on. It was not tight at all. So this boot just blew off, and As soon as it tried to make boost, I've got my boost gauge in the car. That's actually what this cable is. That's the where I hooked up. This T used to not be here. I cut this hose in half going to the intake manifold and wired up a boost gauge, and when it would go up to 0, and then the car would completely shut off for a second. No electricity, no engine power, and I was like, oh my god, my car is done for. And then I realized that, and it was stuttering as it was getting close to 0 psi as the boost would try to start to build. And I was like, oh, my car's in limp mode because now it won't make boost. I'm like, great, I really did something now. And it turns out, nope, it was fine. It was just this boot blew off. That was all. So, that's good, I guess. Getting close to finished here. And then we're going to have a functional cooling system for the winter, so that we don't have to worry about leaking all over the ground. Well, I'm still going to be leaking some power steering rack fluid, but that'll be the next project. I have to order some triple square bits. I went to Advanced Auto and I went to O'Reilly Auto. Neither of them have the triple square socket that I need to take out the power steering racks in these Audis. So I'm going to order some of those online. I'm also going to order the tamper-proof hex key thing for taking out the gear pan drain, so I can change my manual gearbox oil, which has never been done, and it's at 165,000 or so. So I know that'll make a nice difference. Should shit go into gear a lot smoother, easier. Put our socket on the forwards direction, since we are now reassembling and no longer taking apart. These bolts don't need to be that tight either because they have such long threads and there's nothing pulling on the throttle body. It's just a light little piece, so it don't need to go crazy. Just nice and snug. Don't want to strip it out. Don't want to break it off. It's not gonna come off. It's got so many threads. Alright, it's plenty tight. Get our clamp back on here. Stinger back on. I almost feel like I'm forgetting something because this is going so fast and easy. But yeah, I think I got everything. Got the J plug in. Got all the thermostat stuff hooked up. The alternator back on. I plugged in the electrical things. Oh, it's tight. Trying to get this up here. Pretty tight fit, you know, even without the clamp. It did stay on for several pulls under boost before it blew off. There we go. Okay, so we're actually going to tighten it this time. Hopefully someday I'll upgrade this intake pipe to 3 or 4 inch or something, a little less restrictive, and move the intercooler from the fender to the center. Should be a little bit of a more direct airflow path. Alright, so let's get this coolant hose back on. Right there. Turn this clamp around so we can grab it. Line it back up with the recess that it's made over the years, back to its home. Go to your home. Go to your home. There. Perfect. Alright. Wow, we're almost there, guys. All we gotta do is put this tank on. lines a little bit crossed up down there. Okay, so the back goes in first. You have to tilt it down into the back, and then the front goes down. Oh, how about we just throw that? We'll just throw it instead of tightening it on. We are so close too. So close. Okay, let's try it again. This doesn't really fit, so I can just press it in there and it holds it, you know, whatever. It's good enough, believe me. Believe me. Good enough. Probably use a zip tie right there. Or, you know, finding an actual bolt that fits would be helpful too. See, if I zip tie it though, then I'll have to have a knife to get it off. You know, I think it's fine. Like, it holds if you just press up on it a little bit, but if you pull on it hard, it'll come out, but whatever. It's fine. So we got some extra bolts over here. Maybe one of them will work. Alright, I found this one. You always know you did a good job when you're done and you have extra bolts left over. Just shows that you're more efficient than the factory. Oh yeah, I think that's the one that's actually made for it. It's actually going in pretty nicely. Oh yeah. I don't think that's the one that was made for it left a bigger mark than, but this one holds, so that's better. Alright guys, we're all finished. What we have to do is clean up these tools and stuff. You can see the tank is a little low, so we're going to have to top that off. And then these hoses got emptied from taking them off, so after I run the car once, I'm going to have to fill it up again just because there's going to be a little bit of air in the system. But it'll self-pressurize and self-clear the air out. Then after I drive it, this tank will be lower and I'll just top it off and we'll be all set. So yeah, we got the throttle body there, got the alternator on, got the belt on the alternator. There's the little thing you put the wrench on to loosen the belt. I don't think I'm going to be able to get you a view. I don't know if I'll be able to get you a view of that J hook down there or not. But it's down there somewhere. Is that it? No. Yeah, that's it. So that bolt right there. That's not the one with the line coming off of it, but the one on the top. The less rusty one. That's the new J hook, and there's the bolt holding it on. So she's in there. Engine's all put back together. So I'm just going to top off the coolant and run it, and yeah, that's about it. Put the tools away, and see you guys next time. Alright, so everything should be back together, hopefully correctly. I'll go for a test drive. Ooh, that sounded bad for a second.